y'all. Good evening. It's Team Allen in the
Yeah,
house.
we here in the house tonight.
Yes, welcome to Real Talk with Ellison, the military couples edition.
Yeah,
Right? We're excited to do this one, especially since it's been 27 years. 20
27 years of marriage. Yes,
in the military.
in the military. Yeah, so we got married right after I got out of boot camp. It was I came home on 2 weeks leave, and after those 2 weeks leave, I was going on a world cruise, 8-month deployment, and so we said, you know what, let's just go ahead and tie the knot before I take off. So yeah, we've been married the entire time, been in the military,
Yes,
27 years.
27 years. And
Yeah.
we know that we're doing this show because military couples are unique, right?
Mhm.
Military couples, we're not like everyone else. And so many people misunderstand us, even though they say, oh, we understand, we understand.
They don't.
They listen, you can't understand when your biceps and triceps are coming home every day, and I haven't seen mine in 8, 9 months or a year, right? So there's different things that military couples do, right? We have different obstacles that are unique to us that we have to overcome. The wonderful deployments.
Oh yeah.
Right? The wonderful deployments, the frequent moves, the different friend groups that we have to make because we're changing, the emotions, the feelings of getting close, not wanting to get close, dealing with the children, having to remove and relocate, all kind of different things that military couples actually have to endure. So that's what this episode is all about. So we're going to dive into some of the biggest hurdles that we feel anyway that military spouses as well as the service member, right, faces in marriages.
Yeah, and not only what they face, but different strategies that we have to create in order to become more resilient and so that your marriage becomes more fulfilling.
Yes, yes, yes. So if y'all are on here,
share
it with somebody.
Like it.
Right? Subscribe to Real Talk so you know when we going live, because we're going to start making this more frequent because, marriage takes a community, right? And like I said, military marriages are different and we definitely need that community. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive into some things that we feel are important, in this military marriage.
Yeah.
Right? So woo!
Let's talk about some of the issues or let's say the challenges.
Challenges.
Yeah, some challenges that we face. You alluded to a couple of them already, but like you said, military marriages are not like civilian marriages.
No.
Right? We have different stressors that we face, and the issues and the stressors that we face are unique.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So the first one you already talked about, when your biceps and triceps are gone. Let's just talk about deployments and separation. Right.
Right. So, it's different because, especially now, I think we only did one 6-month deployment.
It seemed like I can remember. Every deployment I did was 8 months, 7 months.
I
don't even know how we did. The Navy doesn't even do 8-month deployments anymore, but I was doing 8-month deployments. It seemed like, right? Yeah. So it's not just the deployments; it's the workups, it's the training cycles, it's the duty day. If you're in the Navy, you know about duty days. If you know, you know. And duty days is a beast.
Right. They are a beast, and I think the biggest part of that is being separated, because when we're separated on deployments, we're still growing.
Yeah.
We're still growing as individuals, but can
grow
not
apart.
grow apart, right?
Yeah.
So even though we are growing individually, we're not growing together, which can be hard on a marriage.
Yeah.
Right? Being in the military, even though we say we married for 27 years, I think it was 2023 Christmas when we sat down and calculated that was our 6th Christmas spent together.
I think so.
Yeah. So even though we've been married all of this time, we only spent, as of 2023, 2024.
Sure wasn't more than that.
No, sir. We calculated it together. So 7 now, because we spent last year together. 7 Christmases.
Yeah, that's a lot.
7 Christmases out of 27 years.
I don't remember. Like, okay, I know I've always said it's been over half. I know that for sure. So if I've been gone for more than half of them. So yeah, it's been a lot.
It's been a lot. So it's obstacles that you go through, right? And both people deal with feelings differently when it comes to that, right? Whether it's the spouse that's home or the spouse that's deployed, right? And so many arguments happen because, or you don't understand, I got it worse, or the person that's away, you don't understand, I have it worse. Like, are we really arguing who has it worse?
Who has it worse? Yeah.
Right.
And it never fails. As soon as you get underway, from Army folks, as soon as you get out in the field, you find out, you get a call, maybe it's an email, you find out the hot water heater broke down, or the car blew out a tire. It never fails. As soon as you leave, the dishwasher goes on the fridge, the washer and dryer stops working. Something happens that you're not there to fix. And so that adds stress to you because you can't be there to take care of it. And you know that your significant other has to do it by themselves.
Right. Even though this is a career, right? Separation and deployment, meaning, deployment is part of separation. That shouldn't be in a healthy marriage because it's really difficult. It's really difficult to sustain. And that's why we keep saying military marriages are different and difficult and unique, is because we have to figure out, how do I sustain when I'm dealing with constant separation?
That's right.
Right. So as a military, as the active duty service member, what are some tips that you can give to how do I sustain through the separation?
Well, I can give a few of them. I think we want to get into maybe some more of the tips there towards the end. But as far as dealing with the separation, I think one of the things that you can do about being apart, I know we made this a practice, was we didn't start this practice until we was towards the end of our career, right? But we had a daily devotional that we did together. And I would read a chapter, she would read a chapter, and I would email her what I got out of it. And I would wait for her to email me back the response to what I wrote. And then she would give me what she got out of it. And then I would respond back the next day.
We had it color coded too.
And by the time we got to go back and forth a couple of times, it was the end of the week. And then we went into the weekend, we started again on Monday.
Yeah. And which was good because that helped us communicate, because being out to sea is Groundhog's Day.
Yeah. And so it gave us something to talk about, and the best way I can explain it to a lot of people is that for the couple or for the spouse that is at home, they still have to interact with life and they still have to do life by themselves, but they're still moving and operating in society. When you're out on deployment, it's like the world put pause on your life.
Yeah.
And everything stops until you get back. And I can remember coming back from out on deployment, and I was like, when that come out? Where'd that car come from? And what movie is that?
When did they build that 7-Eleven?
Right. All this stuff new. Yeah. It's just like your life was on pause and you missed 8 months of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes being in the military, right? Because I say that because even though you have the mill-to-mill, which is military to military relationships, you have some of the relationships where one is actually serving in the military. We're both in this together, and it can take an emotional toll on us differently. And we need to respect each other's, emotions during this time. This is not the time to think one is better than the other, but just to develop a level of understanding of what each other is feeling at the time. But this is where communication is important too.
Yeah, and that emotional toll that's an argument that can happen because listen, you don't understand. I've been up for 18 hours. I haven't eaten but once a day. I've been stressed out because of the mission, or maybe you're seeing combat. And so emotionally, you're trying to deal with staying alive, and then your spouse was like, well, you don't know, I'm trying to deal with these kids and I'm trying to still work and raise the family and deal with the car that broke down. And I'm here by myself and it's just me. And so you can go back and forth over who had it worse. But the issue really is that we're not really addressing where the other person is emotionally. Right.
Right.
I think another thing that we deal with also would be like frequent moves. Like this wasn't always the case for us,
right?
Given my occupation in the military, but there are some branches of the military where they PCS and relocate on a consistently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that you always have to deal with the stress of relocating, moving all your stuff, getting reacclimated to a new job, the kids in a new school. All of that becomes a problem. You remember when we PCS'd over to San Diego?
Yes.
Remember she showed up and the housing wasn't ready.
Oh my gosh! Thank God I had family to leave the children with, because I was sitting on the steps of housing because they were like, oh yeah, it won't be ready. And that was a test of a lot, because you wasn't there. I was very big on stranger danger, but then here I had to live with this random couple who I met coming out of the office that took me in, and we're still friends to this day, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
But those are some of the things that we have to go through because of unpredictability. Right. So another,
yeah. And it takes a military couple to understand that, which is why I'm assuming Alita made the offer. Hey, sis, you can crash on our couch,
Yes,
they understand.
Yes. Rita Finney, that's her name, and I'll throw it out there. That's my girl. It was Rita.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. So Rita, that's my girl. So you have a lot of unpredictability. Not just with moves, but also with schedules.
Oh, man.
Right. And because of that, it's hard. So it's nothing like making plans for a vacation.
And the plans get uprooted because they change the schedule of your underway, right? Mm-hmm. You're supposed to be in port for a month, or we're going to be in port for 3 weeks. And it's, oh, by the way, we're not coming back for this underway for 3 days later, and we're leaving 2 weeks early. And it's like, what? Yeah. So your whole schedule in life is subject to the obligations of the military.
Yeah. And I do want to share this, going back to that emotional toll, because, and I'm going to say this about me, because it can cause resentment and bitterness, right? And my anger that I was projecting on him wasn't necessarily towards him, but he was getting the brunt of it, because there was no way I can go up to Big Navy and be like, what are you doing? So the anger that I was feeling towards the Navy, he was getting the brunt of it. So that's another reason why communication is so important, because now I can understand, he can, understand me, like, hey, I'm upset and I'm hurt because this is what's happening. But if I don't identify that my own self, now I'm causing conflict between us, because I'm like, it's always the Navy. You always got to be gone. You're never here for me. I got to do this all by myself, because I've been through surgeries, right? I've been through a lot of different things by myself. Man. And I became resentful and didn't even know it.
And the phrase, even to this day, is like knives in my ears. Oh, you were never here. Like, it was like,
oh, that one. Okay, I was just going to say the other one.
I don't know what's the other one.
You're just a visitor.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, she told me I was just visiting. You're just visiting. Yeah, that one hurt. But when you say I'm never here, like you was never here, I'm like, I was always here, but I wasn't. I was gone. My purpose for doing what I was doing was here with the family, but I was physically gone. I was emotionally gone, and so that was hard to deal with.
And when you have a spouse and you're going through some things, and you were emotionally gone, you were physically gone, right? So mentally gone, you were just gone, period. So now here I am again, getting fueled and by my emotional distress that was causing me to be angry towards you.
Oh yeah.
Right? So, and that's where statements like, you're just visiting in here. Don't come make no changes up in here.
Don't come up in here trying to tell people what to do. You just visiting.
Right. And where that was very hurtful, I meant that. I could have said it a bit differently, right? But at that time, that's what spewed out. And we have to be careful, because again, that causes a disconnect between us. And you were hurt for a long time over that.
Yeah, I was hurt. But I mean, I didn't know any other way to deal with it, because it was like, listen, honestly, you could go back home if you had to. You could go, and I know you would never go back to Nana, but I was like, you could go back to your mom, but I can't leave. I gotta stay here. I have to do this. So I don't really have an option. This is how I take care of you. This is how I take care of the kids. So and I had to get to the point where I was like, if you're gonna go, but I don't have a choice. I got to get on this ship and I got to get underway.
Yeah.
But I think one of the other issues came from, there wasn't really anybody for me to look up to while I was in the military that could tell me how to process this a proper way.
Yes.
Because back then when I came in, when I said something to my superiors, my chief, that, hey, my wife is bugging out, I don't know how to deal with this. He's like, hey, bro, shipmate, your wife didn't come in your CMAG. And that's the answer I got, which means we ain't got time for all that. You need to push that away because we got work to do.
Yeah.
Deal with it later.
Yes. And that's one way of becoming emotionally disconnected, even when you were home, because you had to learn to keep pushing feelings away.
Yep.
Right. So that's another thing we got to be careful of. Like, okay, I detach, and I don't want to speak for you because that's your story. I just know it because we talk about it. Yeah. But I detach my emotions because I got to get ready to go.
Oh, man. Yeah. And I know a lot of people can relate to this. That long walk down. I can speak from the standpoint of being in the Navy, y'all. I'm a Navy man. I'm retired now, but I did 27 years of active duty. And anybody in the military, especially the Navy, when you go to walk down that pier and you're going on deployment, there's a period where you give them a kiss and you'll keep walking. But I knew that if I turned around, I might not go on the ship. So when I turn around to walk, I don't look back. I just keep going. And I could hear her call me. I could hear her say, babe, and I love you. And a lot of times I would just keep walking. I wouldn't even look back.
And on the other side, I'm just like, can I just get one more glimpse of him? You know, and I just feel like I'm getting emotional right now, but I was like, can I just get one more glimpse, right? Because I wanted the visual just in my eyes, so that if I close my eyes at night, you know, I can still see him. If I, you know, having a bad day, I can close my eyes and I can see the visual. And I was like, I just want to see you one more time. But because he needed to get on that ship and he had a job to do, it was difficult to turn around. So this is where the emotional turmoil, because it was making me feel like, you didn't even love me enough to turn around, right? You couldn't even turn around just one more time, you know? And I can remember standing on the truck and standing just like, hey, and then I know you see me. And then my heart just was like, because he wouldn't turn around, right? So I still get emotional by that.
Yeah.
And I know so many of us can relate. And that's why, you know, we're here, you know, to help couples to understand that there's a way that we can get through this together. There's a way that we don't have to hold those on, because all of those thoughts and those memories became seeds of just resentment and bitterness.
Yeah. And I think it's important to know that we all feel those things. See, I come up in a time where I didn't think none of my chiefs even liked their wives. The way they couldn't wait to get it. This is what they used to tell me. They used to say, hey, sailors belong on ships. Ships belong at sea. Haze, gray, underway. That's the life for me. Every time we get underway, it's a great day to get underway. Couldn't wait to get underway. And I'm like, they must hate their family, you know, but they're really trying to get us motivated in the mindset to focus on what we're about to go do. Because if you're focused on what's happening back home, it could lead to you getting hurt or causing some type of catastrophic injury to somebody else, or a casualty, or a worst case scenario, somebody getting killed.
Yeah. It was the mission at hand. And until later on, I didn't understand that, because I was going, well, what about us? Right. And he's like, babe, I got a mission to do. This is my assignment. This is what I signed up for. You know, and even that part became bitter because we didn't talk about him signing up, right, at all. So it was so much bitterness and resentment. And as a military couple, I'm harping on that because a lot of us don't understand that is the root cause of most of our arguments, is because somewhere in there, what about me? What about the kids? Aren't we a priority? You put the military first. It's always your career. The list can go on, but until we really just deal with that, it's going to continue to cause a disconnect between us.
Yeah, and so I think the spouse doesn't really have anywhere to go to vent, maybe to some other spouses that are kind of in the same situation, you know. But then when they're dumping onto the service member, and the service member goes to their chain of command, the chain of command tells them, hey, suck it up, buttercup. We got to make it happen. So I'm dealing with the stress of my wife is upset. She's angry. My kids are mad at me, but they're telling me I got to go. And I still got to do this high risk job and arduous duty. and survive so that I can get back to this woman who's still mad at me, right? And so
basically
it puts you in a precarious situation, because you're like, I know you're upset and I know you're angry. You feel like I'm choosing the Navy over you, but I'm not. I chose the Navy to help as a means to take care of you.
Right.
It just so happens that this job requires sacrifice from the whole family,
from
everybody
the whole
involved.
family.
Yeah.
Being in the military, being married in the military takes a sacrifice from the whole family, even singles, because your mother, your father, your siblings, it's a sacrifice.
That's right.
Right. It is definitely a sacrifice. And the thing about it is, we have, in order to survive a military marriage, we have to make sure that we identify together we serve. Right.
Yeah, we got to be on one accord.
That's right. The military person can do their job better with the understanding that, hey, my partner is home and they holding it down and they got it. Right. So that's one of the things we have to understand. Together we serve, but instead it's almost as if we're treating each other like enemies.
Yeah, because I felt like a long time that the Navy is something I do on the side. Like I kind of kept you from the military because it was like you were always angry because it pulled me away. So let me not even. It was almost like the Navy is what I go do. Right. And so I go do that and do what I got to do to take care of the family. And then I come back and try not to talk about the Navy, but the Navy was transforming me and my mindset. And so what happened then is we wasn't on one accord with the mission. It was the mission, or the Navy was the problem. That's what it was. The Navy, she told me, you've been with the Navy, you've been with another woman for 14 years. I'm like, wait, what?
The Navy was your mistress.
She said, the Navy was your mistress, right? I said, oh, my Lord. She said, you've been on trips with her. You've experienced new places with her. You spent holidays with her more than you have with me. And I said, man, that cut me to the heart. But she was telling the truth, but that wasn't my intention. But the Navy became, the military became an obstacle between us.
Yeah,
because she felt like I was choosing, even when I was home, I was still choosing the Navy over her.
Yeah. Yep. That's how I felt. It's you have to build a resiliency together, right? In order to manage through a military marriage, right? Your spouse has to be your priority as much as possible outside of the active duty service member. And I say that because so many times we want to complain, right? You said a support group. Well, call it a support group, but as long as it ain't a bashing group, right? Or, just a group that's not encouraging me anything like that. But we want to run, tell our friends, want to run, tell our family. We want to run and do all of this stuff. And that's not the best way to build resiliency in the marriage. You have to be able to communicate your feelings to one another, right? But what happens is there's a barrier because, well, I don't know how long he's going to be home, so I don't want to talk about this and bring this up because we want to make sure it's all, blue skies and rainbows and sunshine, so we don't talk about the difficult things.
And then a lot of times when we do talk about the difficult things, I'm emotionally not present because, well, I got to leave in 2 weeks. So let me just nod and get through it because I'm about to get underway anyway. Just let her talk and have her way until I'm gone. It don't really matter.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really emotionally present long enough to really deal with the problem. But we have to understand, spouses, when you're getting married, when you're making that obligation, I think there needs to be some serious premarital counseling for military couples. You need premarital counseling for any relationship.
Right.
But when you're talking about military couples, I encourage everybody to get premarital counseling from somebody who's been in the military and made it and survived, because you have to understand you're buying into this person's obligation to their country, right? That's an obligation that you swore an oath to. That's your obligation that you freely entered into. You volunteered for whatever your reasons were. Maybe it was go to school, maybe it was take care of your family. But at the end of the day, you're there to protect and look after the liberties and the freedoms of the people of this country and to uphold the Constitution of the United States. That's why we're there. And so your spouse has to buy into the fact that I'm going to sacrifice something being married to this person who's obligated to a cause that is bigger than us.
Yes. It's important that I'm glad you said that, because it's so important to be a supportive partner instead of a hindrance, right? Spouses, sometimes we can be a hindrance because we want to nag about every little thing. We want to send them messages about every little thing, that's happening. We want to complain about every little thing, and I learned early on, like what I can handle, I can handle. I'll tell him about it later, right? Because what is that doing for him? Being on a flight that I mean, I didn't want him to know half the stuff that was going on until after it was done. And I'm like, yeah, this is what happened, and he's like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, it's good. We good now. But, again, I wanted to be a supportive partner, and I wanted him to make it back home. Right? There's nothing like being out to sea, getting bad news, just like you don't want to be home getting some bad news from out to sea either. Right? So this is where we definitely have to be mindful of our communication instead of sending those trash emails that are tearing down, ripping apart, and destroying the service member that is out to sea, and then expecting them to come home and everything be bliss.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you got to be locked into one another, and those communication, the way you communicate with one another is vital to making sure that you grow together. Right. So we got to prioritize that communication and maintain that connection with one another. So I think one of the ways we can do that is that if we do those daily and weekly check-ins.
Yes, that's important. That's important because it's so easy to get caught up in Groundhog's Day. Right. But if we do daily check-ins, we're learning how to dig deeper and to have deeper conversations, right? About the finances, about the kids, about different things like that. And it's by doing that, you're being more proactive instead of reactive in situations.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, put it on the schedule. That it gives you something to look forward to, because when you're out to sea or when you're in the field, everything is the same day, because military operates off a routine. You do the same thing every single day and you stay in the routine. That's what keeps you moving along. And so when it comes to having conversations, you don't have a whole lot to talk about because nothing changes for you. But if you put it on the schedule, hey, I know every week at Wednesday, we're going to do an emotional check-in. We're going to do a check in how I'm feeling, how she's doing. And we're really going to lock in and talk about, how I'm dealing with being gone and how is she dealing with me being gone.
Yes, that's important. And then if you have a family, it's important for us to do that as a family as well. So we have our time, but then we have the family, because listen, kids get affected by this too.
Oh yeah.
Right? Kids get affected. Sometimes they feel rejected, abandoned by the parent that's leaving, and that can cause emotional and mental, distress as they start getting older too. So it's really, really important. And we'll do another segment with that about the children, but make sure you incorporate your children in that conversation as well after you have yours, right? Because you want to make sure it's age appropriate.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you want everybody to be in sync, so that you're understanding how she's feeling. She's understanding how you're feeling. You understand why little Johnny's acting up at school. It's not because he's necessarily being bad, but this is maybe not necessarily he's acting out of character for him.
Right.
So a lot of times, like you said, we'll talk about kids later, but kids, when they show, how they feel a lot of times in their actions.
Right.
And so you have to take that in account too. And it's just healthy if the whole family is involved with trying to be in sync. And that's something we did not do. Right. And listen, we didn't have nobody to teach us how to do that. Right.
But we learned, and we don't want anybody else to find out and learn the hard way. That's why we're doing talks like this. That's why we have military conferences or workshops. Military workshops that we have. That's why we even wrote a book. Well, I say we, but
yeah. So the whole purpose for the book, when the uniform comes off, and it sounds like, how you deal with transitioning from military to civilian life, but really it deals with how you deal with, it deals with how you interact with your family when you come home. A lot of times we don't really take the uniform off when we come home, and so we interact with our family members the same way we do at work, and it ends up causing a lot of problems.
Yes. Yes, especially if they're in charge. They come home, tend to talk to you like they're chiefs and warrants and officers and stuff like that. And then you're like, hold on, because I've been doing this all this time. Who you think you're talking to? Right. So yeah, that's why the book was written, is just to help, help people. You can get it on Amazon. You can, hit us up in the chat or whatever. But that's why the book was written, to just give people a better understanding of, how do I re-engage after this deployment thing, and how do I re-engage when I'm taught to stuff my emotions and just be about the mission? Because if not careful, then your partner who's sharing about their feelings, it's a mission instead of looking at your partner as sharing their feelings.
Yeah.
You become a fixer.
Yeah. And I think that one of the reasons the book spoke so profoundly to a lot of people that read it was because, coming from our community, we write books about leadership, forging teams, motivating each other. And I could do that. I could definitely do that. I was at the top of my rank. I was the technical expert at what I do. I was one of 6 that was selected to my position in the Navy. So I could definitely write about leadership. But what I found out is that we're really good in the military at making leaders, but we're horrible at developing fathers and wives, fathers and mothers and husbands and wives. Yes. Yeah. And so we don't do a good job at fostering the relationships of our soldiers and sailors at home. Mm-hmm. And so that may be a type of book I write later, dealing with leadership and motivation. But I felt I owed it to my family to put the work in. Just as I put the work in to be great in my field, I owed it to them to put the work in to be better as a husband and as a father.
Yeah, and you're doing so much better now.
Thank you. I ain't there yet, but I'm trying.
But the point is, you have to want to do better. You have to want to see there's a problem. And sometimes that is even an obstacle when you don't see the problem. You're like, what? I'm doing what I'm doing to take care of my family.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can become defensive. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, let me say it this way. I became defensive, right? When you called me on being emotionally withdrawn, or when you would call me on being sharp in how I talk, and you just act like you're still in that. Listen, this is how I take care of my family. Everybody in the house got new clothes and new shoes, and all this stuff is going. I'm taking care of everything. You guys got more than anybody ever had in my family. Yeah. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Right. So don't come at me like that. That's how I felt. Right.
That's how he felt, and that's how he talked. Right. So the other thing about it is, when we first got in the military, it was so different. Right. So communication looked different, and I'm gonna date this, because we used to write letters, y'all. Yes,
with a pencil, mail, pen, and paper.
Yes, and we used to number
up in the corner
in the envelope, because they would never arrive on time.
Yeah, you could send 5 envelopes. You could send 5 letters, and she might get like the 3rd letter I sent, and you'll be reading it and like, what? This doesn't make no sense. What is she talking about? Yeah. And so we learned you had to number. You put a number in the corner. So when she got, okay, this is number 3. Well, I haven't got letters 1 and 2 yet.
Right. But technology today makes it so much easier for us to communicate in the military. And now they even got Wi-Fi out there. So FaceTime.
Boy. So I'm so mad. No, y'all don't need Wi-Fi. Y'all need to suffer like we did.
But honestly, I think the way we did it built resilience, right? Because then you become dependent on the Wi-Fi, dependent on the FaceTime. And what happens when it goes down?
Oh man,
you lose your whole mind, right?
You can't function. We was cut off completely from society. Yeah, and we learned how to function. Yeah, but it does have its advantages if used the right way. Yeah, because it's an avenue for you to remain connected to your spouse while you're gone, if you utilize it the right way.
And that's the most important thing, guys. I can't stress it enough. We have to remain connected.
Yeah,
we have to remain connected. That is so important, because if we don't remain connected, we will continue to grow apart. Mm-hmm. Right. And another thing is really so important for us to make sure that we build our own rhythm. Right. You can't model your marriage off of nobody else, and stay off that social media. But anyway, you can't model your marriage after anyone else. I always say, eat the meat and spit out the bones and do what works for you and your marriage. Your marriage is not your mama in their marriage. It's not pastor in their marriage. It's not the neighbor in their marriage. It is your marriage, right? So fight for your marriage instead of fighting in your marriage.
Yeah, you brought up develop a rhythm, a relationship rhythm. Every relationship should have a rhythm where you're in sync. That's the reason we put together this master class called Battle Rhythm with Your Better Half. In the military, we have something called a battle rhythm, and it's how all the different commands, the different divisions, different entities work together to develop a battle rhythm. You got logistics, you're moving people, you're moving troops, but you also have meetings about missions, how you're going to put weapons and warheads on foreheads, so to say, so to speak. You got meetings about maintenance. You have all of this stuff that makes this engine move.
Right.
And you have to create what's called a battle rhythm.
Yeah.
Because if everybody's not in sync, it doesn't operate the right way.
That's right.
And so we developed a master class to help military couples develop a battle rhythm with their spouse, right? Because that relationship rhythm is important. When you go out to sea or you go on deployment, that rhythm becomes disrupted and it can cause problems.
That's right. That's right. So, and that's really good, and again, a lot of things that we're doing is because we have gone through a lot and nobody was there to really help us. Nobody was really there to help us. So we just did what we knew to do. And most of it turned into conflict, right? Now, conflict is normal. You're going to have conflict. You can't be conflict avoiders. You're going to have conflict. But a lot of times we wasn't fighting fair.
That's right. and as you're learning to fight, before we get to that,
heated fellowship is what I like to call it.
I think you have to, when we're talking about developing this rhythm, it helps if you have, just like you have meetings to develop how you're going to attack this mission. You need to have sit downs with your family, with your spouse, to determine how are we going to deal with this while I'm gone. Because I know Susie's going to have gymnastics, and I know Bobby's got football practice, but I'm not going to be here. What is the plan? What is the way ahead to make sure this gets taken care of without mom getting stressed out, without Susie getting left at practice because nobody came to pick them up? So we need to develop a rhythm that we know that is taken care of. How do we make sure that we're in a safe place mentally while we're gone?
But you saying while you're gone, but I think you need to for both, right? While you're gone and when you come back, because again, the service member is coming back to a routine that they're unfamiliar.
Right.
So like you said, have the meetings, have the sit downs, have the goals, have the schedule, have all of that together and talk about it. So many times we say, well, you should know by now. Well, no, because I check out every couple of weeks because I got to go or I have duty or whatever the case may be. So having those weekly check-ins like we talked about before, having those conversations, having that schedule, and it helps us to be on one accord so we can keep the rhythm going. It's like the lubes in your car. You don't want you don't want it to run out of lube because then the daggone rotors will start getting messed up, the calibrators and all that will start getting messed up. You want to make sure your marriage runs smoothly, and communication is the biggest key.
Yeah. I used to have the guys, we did maintenance meeting every morning. Early in the morning, the first thing we did was maintenance meeting to talk about what had to be done for the day, what maintenance had to be completed, what maintenance could get pushed, which I didn't believe in pushing maintenance, but if you had to, what was the contingency plan if this doesn't get fixed?
Right.
How do we, mitigate the risk factor in this particular mission? And what are we going to do to move forward? And so we would do that every single day because at the end of the day, we had a goal we was trying to get to.
Right.
And I think we have to understand in relationships, you have a goal of being successful, but you need to set little goals throughout the week. What are we going to do today?
That's right.
What's our plan today?
Right.
Right. And we've done this before, and we can even do better at doing it now, even as much as we talk about it. But every morning we get up and we've made it our business to read our devotion. We made our business to pray together before she gets on the road. We made it our business to try to lay out a plan of what's coming,
That's right,
what to expect down the line of the day, so we're not taken by surprise.
Yeah. And flexibility is important because even though we have all those plans, monkey wrenches happen. Especially being a military couple, y'all know monkey wrenches come all the time. should I call out divisions? Air department, nuke, engineer, monkey wrenches are coming all the time. Right? I'm gonna leave it at that. So, and again, if we're not sitting down with our goals, how do we get to a destination if we don't know where we're going? Right? And again, if we don't know where we're going, this is what causes conflict. Back to what I was saying about, we got to learn how to fight fair, because conflict is going to come.
There you go. So when the conflict comes, how are you gonna deal with the conflict? Now she talked about fighting fair, but
we didn't always fight.
We didn't always fight fair.
No, that belt was always, everything was below the belt.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I didn't believe it. I mean, it's not that I wasn't fighting fair. Just I just wanted to end it fast. I wanted to get it over quick. And I wanted to do whatever I had. Strike fast, strike hard. Right. I'm just gonna leave it at that. And try to just get past it.
Yeah.
But when you don't fight, when we say fight fair, we don't mean that you're not going to have disagreements.
Right.
But we mean if you're going to fight, you fight to resolve. You don't fight to hurt.
That's right. That is the big key, because I like to call it heated fellowship now, right? Because if you're fighting to hurt, every time you fight to hurt, that's a scar. It's a scar. It's a scar. It's a scar. And after a while, it forms a keloid, right? So if I keep scarring the relationship, how in the world can I say we're not emotionally connected?
There's no feeling.
We're not connected because there's no feeling anymore, because we scarred each other.
Jeez. Y'all hear that? Man.
And that's important. So we have to either determine, are we going to strengthen our marriage, or are we going to weaken our marriage?
Yeah. If you're not fighting fair, that keloid, that scar creates an instant. You're not sensitive anymore.
That's right.
To what's being said or how they're feeling.
Yeah. And then words like, I want a divorce. I don't care anymore. I don't this. I don't that. And we're just further and further and further apart. Right. So fighting fair, you have to make sure, listen, leave the divorce word out of it. It just needs to be done away. It's not good.
Yeah. Not just the divorce word. I think you have to take the idea of not being together off the table. We give ourselves too many options. Eliminate the options, and then you're forced to work through it. And if you say, if he keeps acting like this, I'm out.
Right.
No, there's no option. If he keeps acting like this, I got to figure out what we're going to do to get through it. There is no out. There is no option. There is no other way. And you start saying stuff like, well, I would be better off without you, or I'm just sick of this. It's time for us to split, or I think we need to separate. When you start saying stuff like that, I didn't really mean it. I was angry. Yeah, you're planting the seed.
Yeah.
That will lead to you actually carrying that out. Right. Those options cannot be on the table.
The other thing is, we got to be careful of where we get advice from, because being from a family of predominantly women, we were taught to be extremely strong and independent women, right? So with that being said, we were taught to make sure we had our own, don't depend on anybody, and, have a strategy in case you got to go. Don't never be stuck. That's what we were.
That's an exit plan. That's she's talking about an exit plan.
Right. So
just in case.
So what I'm saying is, if I'm going into a marriage with an exit plan, how am I giving it my 100%?
If you're coming in with an exit plan, you're not really coming in.
You're not really coming in. You're not really committed. So if I'm not really committed, how am I giving it my 100%? Everything appears hard. Yes. Everything is difficult. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. Right. And that's because I came in it with the understanding that I can easily get up out of here.
That's right.
Right. But that's not what we're working to build. We're working to build marriages that want to stay together, that know that, yes, it's hard, but it's worth it. And we can do this together. Right. That's important.
Absolutely. Like I said, eliminate the options. When you have that exit plan, it's like this. When you go to a restaurant that's got 50 things on the menu, how long does it take you to pick something? You're like, you won't move. You have too many options, right? Get rid of your exit plan. Get rid of Jody's number. Get rid of everything that gives you a way out. Right. As long as you're not in an abusive relationship where you're being harmed, take it off the table. The only option you have is to figure out how to make it work. That's it. That's it.
Right. And it's so important that in my figuring it out, that I don't keep doing the same thing over and over again, getting the same results, expecting it to work. And then I'm saying it's not working.
It's not working.
Right. You know, it's important to do something different. Right. Because in doing something different, that's when we get different results. And it's easy to point the finger at each other, but we have to make sure we look at ourselves. Right. Are we being selfish or selfless? Right. Are we being hurtful, or are we trying to resolve the problem? What are we doing? And that's so important. But again, you know, being military couple, a lot of separation happening. Even if they don't go out to sea, there's still duty days or long hours. I get resentful and I'm like, you know what? I just might as well do it myself. I just might as well do it myself. And then you're planting your own seed of like, what do I need you for?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's important to make sure we communicate so that we can stay unified. That's the key, being unified, right? That's why together we serve. It's not, I hear so many ladies that know nothing about their spouse's career. It's sad. Why don't you know about your spouse's career? Right? I'm not saying you got to go dive all in like I did and I knew about JP5 fuel and all that other stuff. I'm not saying all of that. But I am saying is allow your spouse to be able to discuss some things with you. It don't have to be all the time, but let them know that you are interested, because that career is taking care of the family, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think the other thing is in building those support systems. You said you got to do something different, right? If you want a different result, and that might look like getting counseling, which a lot of people don't want to do.
That's right.
But we got to remove that stigma and understand that counseling is needed a lot of times. Not every time, but probably more times than not, it can help you get through some of the things that you're struggling with, because you don't have the skills, right, to process what's happening and how to behave in a different way. You don't have the skills. A lot of us didn't grow up and learn the skills and how to do that.
That's right. And so many times we don't know what to say, but we just know we don't want to be in this marriage. So it's like, I want my marriage, but I don't want it like how it is.
Yes.
So if that's the case, what are you doing differently to create a different atmosphere, a different marriage? What are we doing differently? Right. And if I've been doing the same thing and it's not getting any different results, don't you think it's time to change?
Or you don't really want to do it. And that's what it really comes down to. So we think we're doing more. Listen, we think we're doing more than we really are. Oftentimes we say, I've done this, I'm trying. You're not really trying.
Trying is a setup to fail.
You're not really trying. If you haven't exhausted every opportunity, then you're not finished. You're just making an excuse. You're just making an excuse and trying to justify why you want out. Eliminate the options and make it a priority to expend all options. To use every opportunity available to you to do something different. Seek counseling. Go to chaplain. Pray together. Go back to church. Invest in books.
Yes.
Go to marriage seminars and marriage conferences, and you would be amazed at how many people are struggling with the same stuff that you do.
Right. I said trying is a setup to fail, because I can sit here and say, I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to touch your shoulder and never reach out to do it. But if I just do it, I'm doing something different, and I'm actually putting forth the effort. I'm extending my effort, right? I'm telling myself that I am doing something different to touch his shoulder versus saying, well, I'm just trying and I do like something like this and no. So stop trying and do the work to put forth the effort to get different results in your marriage.
Listen, most of us would not accept those excuses from our troops, but we make those same excuses to our spouse as to why we can't do it.
That's right.
We don't accept excuses. You make excuses or you make it happen. So you need to make it happen. That's what you have to do.
Yes. That's good. I think that I like that. That was good. Yeah. So anyway, so the reason again why we do things like this is to help couples out, right? Couples and military couples. That's why again we wrote the book. We have also the excuse me, the marriage conferences that we do called We Still Do Marriage Enrichment. Coaching programs. We have that.
And they can find us on the website.
And they can find us on the website at westilldo.us.
www.westilldo.us.
Yes, and you can find out more about what it is we do, how to join the community. We have a Facebook, We Still Do Marriage Enrichment Facebook group that we put some great information in, tips. Again, we can do all of this stuff, but if you don't show up for you, then who do you blame? Can't blame each other, right? You just got to show up for you.
And you got to want to do the work. Don't show up thinking somebody going to pull you, hold your hand, and do everything for you. You got to want to do the work. I had old guy tell me one time, you can't save everybody.
That's right.
But just save the ones you can. That means you save the ones that's trying to save themselves.
Yes.
And if you're trying to save yourself, we got a community that will help.
That's right. And listen, some of us are in tough seasons right now, right? But you're never alone. People put up facades all the time on social media and different things, but trust and believe you're not alone. Every marriage goes through a season, right? It's just how are we going to go through the season? Are we going to fight through it? Are we going to grow through it? Are we going through it separately, or are we going through it together?
Yeah.
Right? So the best way to do is together grow through the issues that we're having, the season that we're in that might be tough right now. Right? And don't be ashamed. Get that couple, that may not have it all together, but they're doing things differently. Right? And they're definitely striving to make sure that they have the best marriage that they can be. You got to be with like-minded people.
Yes.
Right? If I'm hanging around a whole bunch of single people, that's not good. If everybody I'm hanging around is complaining about their husband, that's not good. Or their wife, that's not good. Because guess what? Now your stuff is going to start rubbing off, and I'm looking at them sideways, and they don't even know what Shanae said to over here. I'm just saying, it just happens, and you got to be careful with that, because that can rub off into your relationship as well.
Yeah.
Right? And don't share. Anyway, I don't even know if I want to get into that opposite sex sharing. I just think we don't need to have none of that opposite sex sharing about my marriage. That's my belief. I just don't think it should be. I should not be talking to another him, about my husband, about what's going on in my marriage. I just shouldn't. That's my belief, and I'm sticking to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, be careful who you share your information about your spouse with.
Yeah.
You should never point them in a negative light in front of anybody.
That's right. That's right. And you have brought up seeking counseling, right? And by me being a counselor, both of us being life coaches, it's important, especially to my men and some ethnicities, that seeking help is a sign of strength and not a sign of weakness. Right? That doesn't mean you can't figure it out. That means like, hey, it takes a strong person to ask for help.
It takes a strong person to ask for help, because guys don't ask for help all the time. We'll drive around in circles for 3 hours before we ask for directions. We're not gonna ask for directions. I'm a man. I can navigate by the stars. I know how to do this. We don't like to do that. But it takes a bigger person when you're not sure, or you don't know how to do something, to get the help and ask the question. We say this all the time. Back when I was a chief and the chief mess, we say you need to go get some guidance. That meant you go ask one of the other chiefs that's been in longer than you, that's got more experience than you, and let them give you some wise counsel. And we would do that, right? We held each other accountable. And I think we need to do that in real life. You need to go get some guidance from somebody that knows more about the situation than you. And there's no shame in that, because it helps you become successful.
That's right. That's good. That's good. I like that. Well, I feel like this was good. I hope you guys got something out of it. And again, join us on the Facebook marriage group. Look us up on westilldo.us. It's US, but we like to say us because we still do. So look us up and see how can you guys become a part of the community, and how can we help you? How can we help you grow? And maybe you're not going through anything, right? Maybe you're not going through anything right now, but what's wrong with just being a part? What's wrong with sharpening my tools? What's wrong with making sure I'm part of a community? Because trust and believe, right? You might be on a mountain high, but that valley low is going to come. right? And we don't know how it's going to come and what form it's going to come. But sometimes we feel like we're all good and we don't need it. And then the valley hits and we don't understand how we got here. And we're looking at each other crazy and we're blaming each other for it.
Yeah. So to all the military couples out there, just know that while the military may send you all around the world and relocate you to different places, always remember that your marriage is your home base and do everything you can to protect it.
Yes. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for tuning in to Real Talk with Ellasin Military Edition. Team Allen in the house. And we pray that this is a blessing to you and you got some nuggets. And make sure you share it out, right? Share it out to other people because, again, you never know who's going through. All right, y'all.
All right, y'all.
We out.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.